Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Pharcyde TV with my co-host Jeremy Scipio
What's going on, people?
and a very special guest, Mr. Canyon Cody.
How y'all doing?
Cool, man. Cool. It's always a cool time when I can get with Mr. Scipio, you know what I'm saying? When he's not hitting the stage, being funny all over the place.
Hey, man, I always make time.
That's right. And yeah, I was like, man, yeah, Dewan was like, man, Jeremy's my homeboy. He was like, yeah, man, Sip. I was like, that's right. So,
Yeah, Dewan, sort of story I got. He used to run a show at Comedy Union. It was like the Black Club.
I
Well, they had
remember.
two, and it was really hard to get into that club. So he had the only night. Well, somebody had another night, but they used to like take the other person was like he used to take advantage of comics. Dewan had the only night that I could get up at, and he was the reason I even had a career at that club because he would put me up.
Oh,
Yeah, that's my brother.
yeah, I'll tell you something funny about him. So watching him on the podcast that I used to watch him on, he used to look like a small dude, man. All of them look like they were small.
He don't look small. He ain't never.
Oh,
Dewan can't look small.
On camera, he looked small.
He like a black snowman.
Hey, he's a black snowman about my height. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, I was like, man, hey man, it's crazy with these when a person's sitting down, how they could just look whatever. Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah. I definitely didn't think he was as big as me. I was like, man, this dude's like 6 foot plus. Like, okay.
He's tall, man.
So, Canyon, what city are you from?
Born right here in LA.
Dope.
I feel like there's not a lot of people out here that was born local. How about you guys?
I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm the only person. But what part of LA?
I was born in North Hollywood, and then now I'm out here in Echo Park, and have spent most of my life around downtown.
You real LA. I don't ever hear people say they were born in North Hollywood. That's you might be the first actually.
Yeah, I mean it's a wild story too. My mom came from like rural Cuba in the 70s and landed in North Hollywood in the 70s. And I'm the first person in my family born in the States. And my whole vinyl collection is sitting at my grandma's house in North Hollywood, except for those crates that I go out and gig with. So, I go home every couple of weeks to go pour through the records, and because there's records, that you think are like, this record is kind of garbage. I don't need it. And then you go back 5-10 years later and you're like, oh my God, I have this, you go through those cycles. So I've just learned like, never get rid of records. Just store them at grandma's.
I have technical difficulties, kind of annoying. When's the first time you heard hip hop and what was the song?
Man, I mean, so I was born in 84. So probably the first time that I heard hip hop was, I know I got the MC Hammer tape for Christmas in 89. I remember that. And I definitely have memories of I Miss the Bus, the Crisscross song, when I was real young. But I didn't like define it as hip hop. It was just stuff that was around. The first time that I remember really like identifying something as hip hop was probably Insane in the Membrane. That was the first time where I was like, though actually there were certainly I remember some House of Pain records around that same era too, as being like, this is rap music. This is not just kind of like pop or whatever. So I think Cypress Hill and House of Pain were probably the very beginning of me listening to hip hop.
So you are actually the only person that had the same exact answer that I had.
Oh yeah, which one out of that?
Hammer.
Hammer. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. That was my first tape I had. And, my mama, I had this toy called 2XL. It's a robot that could talk. And I used to play the tape. The robot. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
we were the same age group.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of artists from that era that I think now people think of as being like, you know, kind of like corny or like
Yes.
not hip hop, but like
Yeah.
was totally at that time. Even like Will Smith, I think now younger people think of as like, oh, that's not hip hop. But like
Yep.
in 1990 or in 88, I mean, or even Ice-T is another great example. People think of him as like, oh, he's that dude on TV. You know, that's not hip hop, but like,
man, MC Hammer gets left out of the hip hop conversation all the time.
for real.
Like directly. Like they have so many hip hop documentaries, and I mean, I don't think hip hop has been reviewed anymore in history up until now. And I would say I can't think of one that has a piece, which should have been like one of the biggest chunks, by the way, of the MC Hammer era. They just he was ignored. You couldn't ignore this dude.
Yeah.
Jeremy's musical palette doesn't cease to amaze me. On one end of the spectrum, he's Nas.
Every day, all day.
In a very not fanatical but passionate way. He's Nas.
Yeah.
But
oh no, it's fanatic. It's bad. It's probably the worst. Yeah. For sure. I'm not, I'll admit it. Yeah.
But when you mentioned MC Hammer, I saw this sparkle in Jeremy's eye, and I was like, "Damn, Jeremy's really a '90s like '90s hit. Like he really related." But then I thought about it. Jeremy relating to '90s hip hop is the same as me relating to '80s hip hop. Like it was, they're two different things. But like when I hear you talk to people and you talk about like the music that was going on in the '90s and just like very passionately, I'm like, dang.
Yeah. Man, look, man, I done took every poll on the planet, bro. The '90s had it. The '90s had it. That was the best of everything. No offense to our '80s acts, but these guys don't. They had the talent, but they did not have the bank to back it up. The '90s artists, the hip hop artists, are the ones that are still able to benefit today too. You know what I mean? Like it kind of sucks how that worked out, but you know, 2000s artists are so. You know, like no offense to any of these people, but you know, like Nelly ain't hitting like that no more. You know what I mean? Like it's just a weird time.
The clubs in the '90s in LA was cracking.
Yeah,
they were cracking. That's when guys used to dance with girls, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Let me.
Oh, you get okay. Yeah, I get. Yeah. You know. But yeah, I like to always give MC Hammer just a little more credit. I mean, I can crap on him too, but just overall, man, you know, like that was my first, like my independent, like hip hop moment. You know, of course, my mother or whoever around me fed me stuff, but that was the first one. I'm like, oh, you know, that I can still hear Dance Machine. I mean, you know, everybody can't touch this, but you know, we have to pray every day.
Moment in time. There's a club called Hollywood Live on Hollywood Boulevard. Was it Sunset or Hollywood? I think it was Hollywood Boulevard. Hollywood Live. R&B group The Boys. They're at the club. Definitely too young to be in the club. One of them's on Mike Tyson's shoulders. Mike is carrying him around the club. Mike is carrying him around. Now, this is the 18 and over club. Mike is carrying him around on the club on the shoulders. MC Hammer's in the club, and he's wanting to battle people, and they're laughing at it. You know what I'm saying? That was a moment in time, man. Hollywood Live. You know what I'm saying? Mike Tyson hanging out with the boys. You know what I'm saying? That really didn't have anything to do with anything other than
you were there. You were there? Yeah. I mean, that's that story. Okay, you got more reference than I was. I'm talking about the tape. You talking about the person?
Yeah.
My transition from being just like a hip hop fan, like, you know, what I was listening to in high school. You know, I was like a sophomore, junior in high school when the first two DMX albums came out. You know, that was dominating that era. And you know, the 2001 album came out my junior year, senior year, you know. I think it was actually the like after Tupac died greatest hits album that was like kind of with changes on it. That was, you know, so that was dominating my high school life. When I bought my first turntables was freshman year of college, and that was when I took like a hard turn into more like kind of raucous backpacker Def Jux DJ. And you know, I'm from LA, but I went to school out in Boston where there really is like a crowd for you know, revolutionary, intellectual, lyrical miracle type backpacker hip hop. And this is you know, in 2001, so there was really you know, between like Murs and Brother Ali and Immortal Technique and you know, there were a lot of artists. So a big part of my vinyl collection is that early underground hip hop era. And it, you know, it came around. It's wild because it came around at that same time as that 2000 stuff that you're talking about, you know, the Nelly and the 50 Cent and the Eminem, and it was just existing in like a totally unrelated universe.
Yeah, man, look, I took every bullet for pretty much that whole era. So I would say I run a little bit after you, and literally our timelines align because you said 1984, 1988.
All right.
So I would say I got into that around 2002 to 2005, 6. You know what I mean? Because that's when that kind of died down or whatever. But yeah, you talk about like, you know, just it was so many people I got put on to. But Murs is one of them. I actually worked with him a few years ago, like 2017, on Drop the Mic. He was one of the hip hop consultants on there. But it's funny, you know, in my mind when I get around these people, I'm like a child. But you know, they're adults and they look at me like, yeah, man, yeah, that's me, yeah. And I'm like, dude, I remember you had that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, like, but yeah, that whole era, you know, I was a big Kweli fan.
Yep.
You know, and I used to burn whenever he'd make a mixtape, I'd burn the mixtape, and I remember I had like a party, had a bunch of friends over. I'm playing Kweli, any, you know, anybody who's on Dave Chappelle Block Party or, you know, any neo soul. Man, all my friends were like, yo, turn that shit off.
Yeah, the problem is that I loved it more than really anybody else did. So I was throwing shows and I was DJing, you know, like Jean Grey and Cannabis and Pharoah Monch and like that era stuff. And I was throwing shows and then I was DJing, you know, before they would come on and between sets and stuff like that. And eventually the venues came to me and they're like, we love what you're doing, but can we just do the part where it's just you DJing and not the rapper part? And you know, so that's kind of the transition that I made in when I got out of college. Because in college I was standing firm, like, no, this is the culture I represent. After college, I was, you know, there was rent and bills and stuff. And I was like, all right, I could see how that could make more sense for me to just solo DJ for 4 hours and hold that down and so yeah, that was the turn. After college is that you know, I went from being the in between act to just holding down the whole night.
I like that. That's like probably the most natural transition. I think that's like ties to like the origins of hip hop anyway. Like, you know, where MC hype up the DJ. You know, so the fact that people just like, yo, you know, like I actually like the DJ better than the people talking. So that's actually pretty dope.
Your favorite medium to consume music?
I love terrestrial radio. I like being in my car and like I went to buy a new car a couple years ago, and one of the things that was on my like non-negotiable is it needed to have a knob on the radio that I could switch stations on, not a button. I want to actually turn the knob and find radio stations. Because I feel like it's one of the few ways, especially nowadays, to like get out of your self-created algorithm bubble. You know, like when I go on to social media or I go on to Spotify or I go on to anywhere, the machine is feeding me what it thinks I want. And sometimes what I want, I don't even know yet. You know, I need to expand my circle outside of what I already know. And so I find that just like being in the car and turning around and listening to radio, especially post Shazam. Now that I have Shazam, once I can combine the randomness of the radio with being able to actually find out what song that was so I can incorporate it into my life afterwards, you know, that's what gives me joy, is being able to. And it's also one of the few things that really is like regional. You know, you're out on tour, you can go to another country, you go to another city, and you put on the radio and you will learn a lot about what the identity of that city is.
I feel like we have a lot in common. It's funny because like I feel like radio was slash is the unpopular answer, but that's because the times changed. I feel like because we've gotten away from it, like in TV too. We've gotten away from, like, people would brag. They'd be like, "Oh, I don't even listen to the radio. I choose my own stuff." Or say, "I don't watch TV no more." But now that we all in this streaming era, and you said the algorithm is controlling this, it's good to get back to those moments where you actually had like like the people's choice, and the DJ actually talking back and forth, or debuting a track. I remember they got hot and not, or I can't think of our version of it, but they're like, "Yo, is this record good? Will we keep playing it? Will we drop it?" I remember when In the Club came out.
Man,
I wish I could go back and get this because I don't even. Sometimes I tell the story and I feel like I made it up. Do you know there's a Beyonce version and a Diddy?
I rock the
Diddy
Beyonce
Mary
version.
Jane version.
Yeah.
Diddy and Mary Jane made a version. Mary J. Blige.
Yeah.
And they played all of them on the radio and let the people decide which was the best one. And they chose 50 Cent's version. Like you're not gonna get those type of moments anymore. With you got Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, if that even exists anymore, controlling stuff. So yeah, I don't. It's funny you don't hear the answer radio anymore. But like my wife, her phone disconnected from her car, so then she started going like, "I just been listening to the radio," and it's made me start listening to radio too.
Especially in LA with car culture, I feel like we've got the best diversity of radio too, because you got 105.9, you got 93.5 and 92.3. You got some real solid Latino stations. You can definitely hear some like awesome cumbia, reggaeton. We got K-Rock, which is probably the most iconic rock radio station of all time. And then the left hand of the dial, just between like KPFK and KCRW and K-Jazz and all that stuff. And then, Art LeBeau, just listening to like some classic oldies and stuff like that. I like letting go, especially just somebody who DJs for a living. I like letting go of control and letting somebody else take me on a voyage.
What's the one, because I'm not an LA person, but all you LA people brag about. What's the old school hip hop station?
92.3.
92.3. Yeah. That's not it.
That's not it.
Oh, you're talking about 93.5?
What is it?
K-Day back in the day? You talking about that?
That's
the way y'all talk about that, it makes me jealous too.
Yeah.
It's like obsessive.
It's kind of lost in a little bit. It's not like it was a little while ago. Because honestly, when we were listening to K-Day in the 2000s, they would be talking about playing old school, and that would be, 80s and 90s. Now, old school music is like, think about 15 years ago is old school music. They're playing, it's the Nelly era. I heard Fat Joe on there the other day, Lean Back. Like, that's what old school is now.
Lean with it, rock with it. Yeah, that's old school.
That's old school. So, the problem is, what is that definition of old school changes over time.
The original K-Day never played a Fat Joe.
Yeah,
never played. But I'm not, not in a derogatory way. But I'm talking about the original, the world-class Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
They had a DJ, Russ Parr.
Oh, we got Russ Parr.
Bobby Jimmy. You got to look up his aliases, dude. He was a genius with the aliases. He had Bobby Jimmy, and Bobby Jimmy was like the Black Weird Al Yankovic. So he would do so what Weird Al Yankovic would do to pop songs, he'd do it like to rap songs and stuff like that. But I'll say K-Day was so impactful we would listen through static, and I mean hard static, man. I mean hard static, not a light little crispal, little crinkle, little nothing mild like that. This was a full force. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, we know that you have a very passionate place for hip hop in your heart. You spin on the wheels of steel. What Mount Rushmore would you like to be a part of?
You know, for me, I have had the opportunity to do a lot of traveling in my life and lived in a lot of different countries and cities and stuff like that. And the more that I see people who are happy with their life are the people who are focused on their local community. You know, when I was growing up, I would have answered, you know, I want to be on that Mount Rushmore with you know, internationally famous producers or journalists or people who are recognized as you know, winning Grammys and going platinum and stuff like that. And the older I get, there's like people in my city who hold down parties or record stores or radio shows and have like a meaningful connection to where they're from. And those are the people who I see actually happy. So in Los Angeles, we got the Do-Over, which is, you know, one of the best parties that I've seen in the world, and they hold it down. We got Jeremy Soul with Afro Funky, which is one of those parties that holds it down for real. So to me, the Mount Rushmore is, you know, who in your town has been holding it down for years and years and has an authentic connection to the scene and brings you joy. I'm less interested as I get older in being impressive and more interested in being happy.
Real quick, Afro Funky is still cracking?
I mean, it's evolving into a lot of different names and stuff like that. So now it's called Freak Sonique. But we just threw the Afro Funky 20-year anniversary last year. So Jeremy and Glenn and Rocky still get down and do it on the regular, but it's not like every Thursday at Zanzibar like it was back in the day.
Man, Zanzibar was my spot, man.
Yeah.
That was my spot. I mean, I had a whole lot of ambition back then, man. I live in Harbor City. I lived in Harbor City back then. I would at 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, I'd be like, yeah, we're gonna go to Zanzibar. Like it'd be late in the evening and I'd figure it out.
Where was Zanzibar?
Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can you believe it? I think that was actually this is crazy. I think that was the first place I performed in LA ever.
It could be, it had a stage. It had a little stage.
Yep.
It's gone, right?
Yep.
Oh, I haven't been there for years.
It's pretty much everything, man. I mean, LA, I mean, a lot of cities obviously have gone through this, but LA has lost so many venues because the pandemic was the moment when Golden Voice went and just made offers to all the independent venues and just got folded into this like big corporate machine where now Golden Voice owns like pretty much every venue in LA. There's not a lot of spots left that are they
don't own it. Live Nation owns it.
Yeah, right. So places like Zanzibar are now pretty rare. You know, it's like I feel bad for like younger generation DJs and party crews who are like trying to come up because there's a threshold of like how many people you need to be able to bring before you can get access to a club now. Like I'm in a good spot now. We have our community. I have like options between where I go. But when I first started, I needed small venues to take a chance on me. And it was usually because the booker or the owner or the manager believed in what I was doing musically and they gave us a chance to grow. Whereas now, you know, the people who are making these decisions, all they care about is just kind of like, what can you bring today? So I'm not seeing a lot of young parties growing the way that was happening when I was growing up, because it's just like, it's cutthroat.
If you made an app, what would it be? What would it be the purpose of it?
I'm a huge fan of collaboration. That's kind of the core of all the music that we do. Every time I DJ, I invite out a trumpet player or a drummer or a singer to come perform with us. And it used to be that I was going out and just going to concerts and going to shows and meeting these people. The more that we don't go out as much as we used to, especially as you get older. It would be, I would have an app that would give you an opportunity to just put yourself out there as being open to collaborating. And, where you live geographically, a little sign of the genres that you're into and stuff like that. But it would essentially, I guess, kind of be like a dating app for musicians to be like, yo, I have a show next Friday. You want to come through, we match up similar stuff, bring your trombone and let's do a song. And it would just be a place to kind of like, to make those connections without it needing to be like a big deal. I like doing things at small stakes. Like, how about you just come and do a song? Like, we don't have to like enter into a whole long-term marriage together. Like, let's just go on a little musical date, no pressure. Let's just try it.
Oh man, I'm trying to see what's the word if you're like musically sexual. What is that? Because like sapiosexual, which is trash by the way, means you're attracted because the mind. So yeah, what is it? Musical? You have an app that like, yo, I got a band, I'm missing this one piece. Hey, come and play your stuff. Oh no, I like that.
Your favorite hip hop movie?
I mean, sometimes I get a little mad when people talk about a hip hop movie and I'm like, that's not a hip hop movie. That just has a rapper in it. Because
welcome to our we do this all the time. That's exactly what it is.
Because like my immediate reaction was going to be Above the Rim, because I am a basketball fan. I like basketball movies probably more than I even like hip hop movies. And that's kind of where my immediate answer goes. So I'm just going to stick with my first answer.
Interesting. So back in my early beginnings in the Hollywood hip hop scene or whatever, I was staying with somebody who was a record promoter at the time, and the Above the Rim soundtrack was just straight. I've never even seen the movie. I can't recall seeing the movie, but I know that soundtrack had so many people on it. I couldn't tell you who was on it, but I know that it was just like a hip hop Hollywood party.
Yeah, there's movies that I like. Certainly the soundtrack is more important than the film itself. Like The Wash had like some amazing Snoop and Dre songs on it, like bigger to me than the movie itself.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. There's like 3 Snoop Dre songs on The Wash. I mean, even just The Wash itself, the main title for the song is great. I love that soundtrack.
Yeah. The Dilla song with the girl singing over it from Chicago. I don't know why she never blew up, man. But well, Dre and Snoop had her, and they did some stuff with her, and then Kanye did some stuff with her for a while. I cannot remember her name, but I follow her on Instagram. But she has a 70s very high, but she's not trying to sing high. It's just like it's almost like how Michelle talks, but a girl singing in that pitch of Michelle talking. But she's dope.
I'd like you to tell us about your relation to Buffalo Bill Cody.
So this is a wild story. My mom's from Cuba. My dad, I never met. My dad was not in the picture. His last name is Cody. And one of the few things that we knew about him was that he was the great-great-grandson of Buffalo Bill Cody, who is this famous dude from like the 1850s who was like famous for going out west and conquering the Indians. And then after that, he made a stage show about his life, and he went and like connected with the Indians that he had been like fighting in wars with for decades, and convinced them to come be in this traveling show and recreate the story of him killing all the Indians. So him and like Sitting Bull and all these type of people ended up touring Europe together, performing this story about the American West. So that was kind of just this internal narrative I had about myself, that was half of my story. And I like mentioned it in some interviews and stuff like that. And then recently, some dude sent me a package and was like, "Hi, I'm doing my PhD about like early years of Hollywood. And I saw that you about cowboy movies. And I saw that you talked about being the son of Bill Cody, great-great-grandson. And it's true, you are the great-great-grandson of Bill Cody, but it's actually a different Bill Cody who was also a cowboy, but is unrelated to all that. This is a dude who was actually like early years of Hollywood stuff." And to me, it was a huge relief, because I always had this kind of like, just this ancestral guilt that like my family is responsible for not only just like killing like hella Native Americans, but then like making a narrative about it, like selling the whole story about them doing it. So, you know, yeah, that was a relief. So now he's just some guy.
Yeah, and he definitely has one of the most racist facial hair combinations
yeah,
I've
for
seen.
real, yeah.
Definitely. He definitely has a I slay Negroes and Native Americans face. But you very welcoming presence. So yeah. So it's a different Buffalo Bill. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm free from that.
That's an interesting story. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, you know that story? I think it's with Henry Louis Gates. He's got that TV show where he like takes people through their roots and he does their 23andMe and stuff like that. And people show up and then he's like, "So your great-great-grandfather was, you know, one of the biggest slave owners in Georgia," or like, you know, it turns out that you're, you know, half white or something like that. Like, man, going on to a show like that just seems like you are opening yourself up for like such public danger. I'm like,
hey man, do you rather be related to him or related to the Silence of the Lambs dude?
yeah, right. Like, yeah, you're, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer is your uncle. Like, whoa. Yeah. How about we find that out like in the pre-interview before a live on air? I don't know that I need my like my honest reaction to that information to be right there documented. Like, give me some buffer, and then I'll fake the excitement or aghast afterwards.
I'd take that information like right to the chest. I wouldn't even react. They'd be like, "Did you know you related to like the largest slave plantation on the planet?" I'm like, "Go ahead." Continue. I wouldn't even flinch.
The soundtrack to your junior high school, middle school experience.
I think it's got to be No Diggity.
Hey.
Yeah,
yeah, great answers.
Yeah, I have such a memory of like my first time actually like dancing with somebody, you know, just like that. And Next Too Close, I guess those two songs right there in that and then what was it, TWDY, Play Us Holiday. Actually, it's funny because TWDY, Play Us Holiday and No Diggity are both Bill Withers samples, and Bill Withers is probably my favorite American musician of all time.
That's beautiful. So I assume you didn't like Toss It Up.
I mean,
too big of a Dre fan.
Yeah.
Oh man. So also since I've been digging through your archives, as you can tell, I would like you to explain flamenco and your connection to it.
Yeah. So when I was getting out of college, I was wanting to go study music in Cuba, where my family's from, and what I wanted to go study was how Cuba was a a port city where people from Spain and Africa and South America and New Orleans primarily all came together and shared their music background and created like a fusion of a lot of different styles from the world. I had this whole project. It was all written out. I was looking for funding. And I eventually hit this wall because of the embargo. You can't fund projects to go to Cuba. So I was basically then just looking for a replacement city that had all of that same history. And I came across Granada in southern Spain, which also had a lot of immigration coming from, like, you know, gypsies in Eastern Europe, and Muslims from Northern Africa, and people coming back from Spain. And so I basically just took that whole Cuba idea and replaced all the locations to talk about Spain. And I went to Spain to study flamenco. And flamenco was basically this type of music where you had this period of time in Spain where there were, you know, Jews and gypsies and Muslims and Africans all living in, like, kind of a relative peace, you know. It was like cool for a minute. And then the Catholics took over again and kicked everybody out of the cities into the like, to go hide in the hills. And so then you had all these people who are, like, not just, like, you know, white Catholics living close to each other and sharing each other's music. And that is what produced flamenco. It was all these different cultures that were all kind of hiding, sharing their music together. And then, so you get this genre coming out of Spain, which is flamenco, which is extremely rhythmic, emotional, and really just kind of, like, changed my life. It was one of those things where I, you know, grew up listening to hip hop and to Cuban music and all this other stuff. And that was just there from forever. I don't remember there not being that stuff, but I remember the day that I heard flamenco for the first time, and it just, like, ripped something open in me. Like, it was an emotional, physical reaction to music that I don't think I've ever experienced since then. And I stayed there. I was in Spain for 3 years studying flamenco. My girlfriend now is a flamenco dancer, and it's one of the most, like, transcendent, magical music that I've ever heard. It transports me to a place beyond where I am. It's almost like a psychedelic.
Wow. That's flamenco. Only thing I knew about flamenco is that it was a Spanish type of music, and the women wear dresses and these shoes that are kind of like heels.
Yep.
And I guess the guys wear things that are on their arms. I guess but you broke it down. That's tight. That's tight. You know, it's interesting because you talk about all those cultures. My first time to Amsterdam, I was in a coffee shop, and it was my first time out of the country, period. And I kind of, when I left the country, this had to be about 96, 97. And, you know, my thing was, Europe is going to be weird. I'm not going to like the food, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting in a coffee shop, and I have a Muslim guy on the left-hand side of me, and I have a Jewish guy on the right-hand side of me. And we're, smoking, sipping tea, and we're talking, and I'm just like, damn. And then we're all tripping because we're like, man, you know, the world would not believe a Muslim, an African American, and a Jewish dude could just hang out in a coffee shop in Amsterdam and just smoke, sip tea, and have a great conversation. So, yeah. So, moving on, I hear that you are a sneaker aficionado. So, with that being said, what is your favorite pair of sneakers?
I mean, I have, like, an emotional answer to that where I objectively realize they're ugly, but it just is, like, such a to me such an important part of my life, which is the Jordan 16s with the Gators.
Oh my God.
They're just bad. They're bad shoes, but they came out at a moment of my life where I was just like, I was looking for that sort of being extra. So and, you know, and they had the patent leather tips that kind of made them look like tuxedo shoes a little bit. You could wear them fancy, like you trying to be fancy. So I have an emotional relationship to that. I also, I have like a guilt thing about the 11s all white, the lows, because I went to a house party when I was like, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. And the person who was throwing the party, their little brother, who was like 13, 14 years old, was asleep in his room. And I went to go use the upstairs bathroom, and he left his clean 11 sitting outside of his bedroom, and I stole his shoes.
No.
And I felt guilty about it my whole life, dude.
Yo, you got a good one out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point now, I would say that most of my collection is probably like the undefeated collabs. I really like a lot of the stuff that like they're Kobe collabs, and at this point though, I actually like wear my sneakers. I'm not somebody who tries to like keep their sneakers in perfect condition in boxes, and I really feel like the sneaker resale game and turning sneakers into some sort of like Wall Street commodity thing, you know, it really ruined it for me. I'm not the sort of person who's gonna like keep the plastic on my couch. Like I want to just wear my sneakers, and so I don't want anything that's going to be too expensive that I'm going to feel nervous about wearing them. But every once in a while, I'll, to be honest, usually get given some promo expensive shoes, and then I'll wear them out and I'll scuff them up. And sneakerheads will come up to me like angry. Like I had left a puppy in the hot car when I went into the supermarket, you know, like I was committing some sort of like child abuse to my shoes because I'm wearing them out, you know, in the world.
It definitely depends on the shoe. Now, I actually understand somebody scuffing a $500 shoe. What I cannot tolerate is somebody scuffing $1,000 shoe, or now you lost me. I'm not with you. I ain't your friend. I'm like, what are you doing? You get the shoes are meant to be worn. Yeah. You can also get the bag real quick. But back to these Gators though, because I didn't know. First of all, I'm glad you came to your senses. Jordan 16s in all colors, flavors, and sizes are terrible. Yeah. But they had gator print on the like the sleeve part.
No, gators as in like gators are like a thing that you wear over your shoes in like like, you know, and so this was not gator print, not like alligator, but gators like the piece of clothing. You wear gators like when you're skiing, you like put them over your boots so that, or if you're like a farmer, so mud doesn't get in it. Gators, on the 16, they had this additional little layer, the little flappy thing, the little flappy thing that you could take on or take off.
Yeah. And you like that.
At that moment, 16 years old, I was looking for ways to flex, and I thought I was being fancy.
Now,
you know? Hey man, I definitely had my times, bro. I own a pair of And1 shoes. So, hey.
Yep. You know what? A lot of those And1 shoes, I would actually put that in there as well. In fact, I would say probably the most one of the most influential things to ever happen in my life were those And1 mixtapes on VHS. Ooh, you know, like that introduced me. I remember the first time I heard that Sadat X song was on the And1 mixtapes, and I was like, I was more of a basketball fan in the early years of high school than I was a hip hop fan, and And1 was the one that kind of like started curving me into that because it was introducing me to hip hop that was not the like mainstream pop stuff, which I was trying to move away from just to find my own little identity, but was not the like Arrested Development, like hippie hip hop stuff. And yeah, a lot of those And1 shoes were awesome. The shoes that Vince Carter wore in that dunk contest. I also loved the first Iversons, those Adidas all white Iversons. Those were
yeah. Yeah, those I think those sell now.
Yeah.
They're
comfortable too. They were so light. They were really light. That's the problem with Jordans. It feels like you're playing basketball, like wearing cement blocks.
I like I could talk about shoes all day.
The one that got me in trouble was the Kobe Undefeateds, the What If pack. That was where it came with two shoes, and it has all 16 teams that passed on Kobe in the draft before him. And it's him stepping on the names of all those teams. So it's the what if pack. Like, what if he had been drafted by all those other teams? Those shoes I like a lot. And those are the ones that people get mad at me. And then, I like the undefeated two ways also, the ones that have the colors under the color so that as you scuff them, they reveal the underneath color. Like I got an undefeated Kobe that's like the Chicago to LA's. And so the main color is the purple and gold, the Laker. And then as you scuff them over time, the underneath color is the Bulls color, and they come out little by little. And I feel like those shoes were designed for me because you got to earn the scuffing to get the other color out.
Yeah, I've seen so many like new unique shoes. Like you've seen those Grinch ones.
Yeah.
They have the ones you literally you buy the shoes like really fluffy, but you cut it down to see the layer of the Nike symbol underneath. And then there's this one shoe that came out probably like 5 years ago, probably a little longer than that. It was about 5 years ago. It was like the real shoe was inside of this like this shell, like a baggy shell, but that was part of the shoe too. And you weren't supposed to wear the shoe without the outside. My boy, I used to have a shoe plug. He if I asked him, he'd be like, yeah, because I remember I was at Governor's Ball, right? And it was this really, you can always tell like when somebody's like trying to stunt super hard. It was this really short white guy who had this really tall Amazon chick. And he just dripped out with random stuff, but he had these shoes I ain't never seen. I took a picture. I was like, yo, I sent it to my shoe plug, like, yo, what are these? He broke it down. But yeah, that was one of those like, like $1,200 shoes. Like the real shoe, the shoe drops in value immediately if you wear the real shoe outside of the shoe.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your ultimate goal?
I have parents who are doing things that still make them happy in their 60s and 70s years old. And they're still creating. My mom is a painter and she's out there making art every single day, and it gives her joy. My dad does like farming, and he likes being out touching the dirt, growing things. I think that continuing to do the thing that makes you happy is the ultimate goal. It's just like right now, are you participating in your own life? The idea of like, I want to win a Grammy, or I want to perform at Coachella or something like that. Every time I have accomplished one of those goals, I have felt like sad afterwards, because the joy doesn't last. The joy is in the work. Now the work gets you those things. You accomplishments come from it, but like finding something that you enjoy the process of doing, and then just doing that, just being able to live that life.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best decision you've ever made.
I have a couple of times in my life gotten a no for something that I really put a lot of effort into getting, and it hurt and it knocked me down, and I ended up just going back a second time and taking another swing at it. And I got it the second time. When I got that thing to go to Spain, when I was applying to college, when I've been a couple of like residency DJ stuff that I did, it's so demoralizing to fail. And the best decision I've ever made is just to take another swing, just get up there and give it a second crack, because usually it's the second time that you hit the home run. It's not the first swing.
All right.
What job gave you the best life experience? I mean, I'm sure you got the answer.
Yeah. I mean, I right out of college, I started working at record labels, and I worked at two of the most iconic Latin record labels of all time, Nacional and Fania, and both of them gave me an opportunity to, you know, go to the Grammys and go to Coachella and tour the world and meet a lot of my heroes and be around people who are on kind of like the cutting edge of the industry and stuff like that. And that was very rewarding for an insecure young man who was trying to kind of like gain validation by association, you know, just kind of like, I remember just posting pictures of me with famous people trying to like feel as though I, you know, show people who I am and stuff like that. Now, but the reality is that that entire time, all I was being trained to do was learn how to make money off of the work that we did. And, you know, it never really gave me joy. What gave me joy was throwing house parties. And that whole time I was throwing house parties because it was a time where I could like, it was the one place that I could just not be worried about royalties and ticket sales and all that stuff and just kind of like connect with people. And that gave me hella joy. And probably the thing I'm most proud of in my life, there are like 2 or 3 house parties that I threw that to me are the like crowning jewels of my life. You know, it's not DJing at the Grammys or going to Coachella and all that stuff. It's like, do you remember that house party where like the cast of Fela showed up to the house at like 3 a.m. and, you know, like those things were the things that were real special. And now my job, I work at this music festival summer concert series downtown called Grand Performances. And we do free downtown concerts during the summer. Every city has them. In New York, it's like Summer Stage and Celebrate Brooklyn. Here in LA, I got a 7,000 person venue and we book bands and it's free to come. It's all ages. And, you know, that's what gives me joy. I feel like I'm like, you know, the military is just, they're given a budget and it's their job to spend it. You know, they don't have to earn any money back. That's how I am with my job now. Like I don't have to make any money back from the artists or from the performances. All I have to do is provide value to the community. You know, people come and they get to experience music and have joy, and that's the only expectation. And that's finally being able to separate the art from needing to make a profit off the art. Like that's the most meaningful experience.
Boy, do I have a conversation for you off air. I got one, man.
All right.
I got a good one. I got something. Yeah, I got something that's dope. But your most iconic moment.
I mean, we did so Subsuelo is the name of the party that I throw, our DJ crew. And you know, we've been doing it 13 years. And you know, we do it on the underground. Every once in a while, we get to spend other people's money and go big. And so Red Bull, a couple years ago, we had one of those Culture Clash DJ battles where they set up different DJs in different corners of the room, and they gave us a stupid budget to bring in special guest artists to come and battle, you know, the other crews. We were battling Do Over. And we brought out as surprise guest Cypress Hill and Danny Trejo, El Machete, together. You know, and we were representing the, you know, Latino LA, and you know, we had that we you know, Eric Bobo was there, who has been part of our scene for forever, and you know, that was that moment for me where I felt like we were really representing, you know, where we came up from on that big level. I was looking around. I mean, like I just said, my first hip hop memory was Insane Membrane, and then I got Be Real right there, you know, with Danny Trejo on stage. That was real dope.
Awesome.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I just said pretty awesome.
I also saw that you I mean, you probably went over this. So I apologize if you did already, but you work for Red Bull.
Yeah, there was that little window right there where Red Bull was just they were the blank check for if you wanted to do some dope stuff. I worked with Red Bull Music Academy for I think like 7 years, helping them find artists that wanted to go to go to the RBMA and producing shows with them and recording at the studios. And that was a really, there was a period I was working with Boiler Room, I was working with Red Bull, Jack Daniels was funding our parties and stuff like that. Like there was a period in the early 2000s where there was just brands were really willing to just like fund your music ideas. And
Scion.
yeah, Scion too. Yeah,
They came
those
in
Scion
jumping.
mixtapes, those were awesome. My mom needed to buy a car, and I actually convinced her to buy a Scion, essentially because I thought what they were doing was dope. It worked on me.
But last one, Vitamin Water. They dumped a lot of money into the situation too, man.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I worked. I work in film production stuff. I worked for Red Bull. Worked for them quite a few times, but I think I probably put a date on it, probably like 2015, 16, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just like the office. They had the office in like Santa Monica, I think, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. I used to always like load up on the Red Bulls on the way out. Yeah, I seen that they were like, I'll try to get them into some comedy stuff, but I didn't have my head on straight like I do now. I wish I did back then, but yeah, man. Like I used to, I probably collabed with them probably like I would say like maybe 5 times. And I don't know. I guess my contact there, I guess she got tired of me turning it because I would like do shows sometimes and they don't like that. Yeah, when you said that, I was like, I wonder if you know some of the people I knew.
Well, I mean, what I found with everybody in the industry is it's just kind of like a musical chairs thing, like my contact at Red Bull is now the contact over at NBC Universal, and the guy that was at Brown Forman is now over here. So the email address changes, but man, it's a good advice to young people to don't burn your bridges, because it is those same people who you're going to be working with in 5 years and in 10 years.
Some capacity.
No, you're not lying. It's like that in comedy for sure. I mean, just living long enough, I know like people's past, because people were like, oh, they like this place got a new booker or this place got, I'm saying new, this person's been around for forever.
Yeah.
And some things I like to point out, I always like to point out that Lear Cohen, he didn't just evaporate. He's the head of YouTube music, you know what I mean? Yeah. And probably bigger than that at YouTube. So hey, watch what you say on I always say when we're doing this. What's the best advice anyone's ever given
you? Failure is an option. I feel like people are more afraid to lose than they need to be, and that by playing it safe, they limit their growth potential. And so, like I was saying, I take real big swings, and I have had some real public failures. But sometimes you make contact on those swings, and real growth comes from just like the luck of everything coming together. And I think that by being controlled by the fear of embarrassment, people limit their opportunities. And there's something liberating about just letting yourself know is like, failure is an option. It is not death. It is not the worst thing in the world. Like, you will survive this. Go put yourself into a challenge that might defeat you, rather than just staying somewhere where you're going to win. Like, there's all these boxers out there that have like a 38-0 record. And it's like, you're obviously not taking tough enough fights. I don't trust you, because you're only fighting people that you're better than.
Ooh.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
That's a good one. That was a good one. I just to add on to that, I just seen this one quote from Tyson, because of the fight with him and Jake Paul, like, he's back relevant. But he said you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And he said like he said that's like the mark of a man is doing something you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. That's maturity. He said that some people get comfortable doing stuff they like to do, and he said you're never gonna grow that way. But just attack on what you said. I like that.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Your favorite biopic?
I got to admit, I kind of hate biopics because I feel like you could just switch out the character and they all have the same arc. It's just kind of like the same story every single time, but just switching out a little bit of where they are and stuff like that. I'm gonna go with just like immediate first answer that came to mind. The Schnabel Basquiat biopic is awesome. That has I'm blanking on his name that plays Andy Warhol in the movie. That's awesome. He did another biopic about a Cuban poet who I really like, Reinaldo Arenas, which is called Before Night Falls. But I feel like people who break out of the traditional arc of a biopic is my favorite because they get so repetitive.
All right.
Yeah, you put me on something.
Yeah, that Basquiat movie is dope though.
What who would play you in the biopic? Okay.
Man, I feel like you're just setting somebody up for embarrassment, whoever they pick, because you're either gonna pick some like super handsome dude or I would say that I would go with, because I'm also trying to think like I would go with either Gael Garcia Bernal or Diego Luna. They're two actors that
No doubt.
they got famous for Y Tu Mamá También. Now Diego Luna is in like Star Wars. He was the dude in the new Star Wars series.
What's his first name?
Diego Luna.
Oh, Diego Luna. Oh,
yeah, and then the other dude who's like they came up as actors together is Gael Garcia Bernal. Yeah, they're in a lot of Alfonso Cuarón movies. I really am a big fan of all their work, and they got good range. They can play comedy stuff. They can play serious stuff. They're like, superstars, but they still do like weirdo art movies on the side and stuff like that. And I feel like they're like sufficiently not like ripped. I feel like all the actors now, they're all like in like, or like, like I'm a skinny dude. Like I need somebody kind of gawky to play me.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I look up to people, so I was like, all right, I'll let these slide.
And we're gonna hit you with the last one.
Okay.
Who would play you?
Wait.
I'm tripping. I'm tripping. Like I said, that Duvall. Shame on me. What would the title be?
One of the places that I feel most comfortable is in real loud environments. That's kind of like, that's my peaceful place. Like I really like heavy vibrations. So I'm going to go with that. Heavy vibrations.
All right. So there is actually one more. There's one more. So with you being involved in the whole, I guess, event promoting, arranging, showrunner type of capacity, since we're all sitting here talking with each other, we've all been blessed to make it through the whole COVID situation. So you got to see how popping it was before COVID. Then COVID comes, everyone's doing things different. Like we're able to do this interview via technology. You know what I'm saying? So during COVID, everything slows down. And then after COVID, it seems like there's a festival every other weekend. Like everything is just like on the largest scale of just like gluttony of entertainment going down just the most. With you seeing it and kind of working within it, where do you see social progression going in the next 2 years? Do you think that that people will get sick of just all these huge festivals and then gravitate back towards the smaller, more intimate venue? Or do you think that, you know, it's a wrap? People have just figured out how to throw these festivals every other weekend, and that's just what we're gonna have.
You know, I think that a lot of these festivals don't have any sort of like real connection to why they exist other than the fact that it makes sense financially. But the ones that do have some roots and some sense of self, like EDC, like Coachella, like the Governor's Ball, I think that eventually, like Bonnaroo, eventually those are going to outlast all of these kind of like cookie cutter copycats, because there's no there's no actual like cultural foundation for it. So I think that we're going to see a lot of these just kind of like generic copycats go away. And I would love to say that I think, you know, the smaller intimate thing is going to take over. But I think that the pandemic broke a lot of people's brains, and people are just, they'd rather be at home than go out unless they feel as though everybody is going to be there. And so I would love to say that smaller, more intimate thing is coming back, but my gut tells me that it's not, because I don't see it important to younger people. You know, I see it important to a lot of people my age and people maybe in their 30s, but man, like the 20, 25-year-olds who I see, like, they don't seem to like going out to party. They don't seem to like to dance. They don't seem to like to drink alcohol. They don't seem to like they don't even seem to like making out or having sex. Or like, I have a lot of trouble with this like super young generation. I can't tell what they want out of community. So once they figure that out, then ask them, or we just wait for this next generation, because I think that all the kids who had their fundamental moments, like their 16-year-old moments in the pandemic, they've got a real weird relationship to things, just to the outside world, you know? So.
All right, I'm gonna flip a wild card. This is getting too good. Since Jeremy's a comedian and he's involved in, you know, larger venues, smaller venues, what do you think as far as comedy is concerned? And people going out in the culture of the smaller venue, the medium, the larger, the corporation coming in, the Shannon Sharp launching a whole new level of entertainment on comedy's back type of thing. I mean, where do you see it going?
I mean, it's probably the stuff that I enjoy watching the most, because it feels like when we were talking about like cookie cutter, so much content to me feels as though it was created by committee based on focus groups. When I watch stand-up comedy, is one of the few times where I feel as though this is an original thought that was created by a person that is a pretty honest expression of something that they are feeling, and that it is somewhat fearless. Like, I remember I was on my way to a junior high basketball game, and I was on the JV team, and our coach was kind of like, he was kind of a mess up dude, and he played can we curse? So is that, I forget. I do. Yeah. So he played "Fuck the Police" on the way over there, and I remember being like, oh my god, I didn't know that was allowed, but also being really like liberated by like, I thought that I mean, I was like, what, 12? I thought that honestly, you would go to jail if you said bad things about the government or the police, you know? And
Yeah.
it opened my mind just to realize like how much freedom we have if we just actually use it. And I feel like comedians right now are some of the very few people out there that are pushing that boundary and showing me like, oh, you can say these things. We live in this world of like self censorship, and comedians are like one of the few people who I see speaking truth and living on that edge there. I kind of wish that it was back like in the 70s when you would have comedians you would have like comedians opening for like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. Like I would love to see comedians be integrated more into the concert world.
That's part of the conversation, man. We're gonna have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So you,
Funny
Jeremy, what is
yeah.
what is your take on it?
My take is April 28th at the Comedy Store at 8 p.m. There's going to be a fun night of music and comedy, the two things you love more.
All right.
And also, I'm also open to collaboration and anybody who's willing to help me create this because it's apparently a blank slate. But yeah, my thoughts on what's exactly the question? Hey, I learned I got to plug, man. I don't plug enough, man. I'm trying to sell these tickets, man.
Hey, man, Brown is all over me too, man. Shame on me, man. We about to get it right for 2024. But the question was, since Canyon's, since his point of view was more like the younger, like the 25-year-olds and whatnot, like they're not into going out, they're not into really socializing in the same way that our generations or our age range socializes. What do you think about the small venue, the medium venue, the large venue, and everyone being so drawn to like the sensationalized comedy, the way that it's sensationalized with the Shannon Sharps and all these guys kind of?
Yeah, the thing is, whether people want to admit it or not, comedy's at an all-time high. You know, like it's just like because kind of piggybacking off of what he was saying, stand-up comedy wasn't you know, it wasn't a theater thing, it wasn't an arena thing back in the day. We're actually watching ground being broken, especially amongst white people. That wasn't really a thing, you know. And I try to be very clear because you know a lot of people like Def Jam was the biggest comedy boom ever, where you started seeing certain acts in areas between Living Color and Def Jam. You started seeing acts in areas that you wouldn't. Other than that, a lot of comics followed traditional roles where they got traditional jobs. Like for example, David Letterman and Jay Leno, they didn't do arena tours. You know what I mean? You know, it's a lot of comedians. You know, you would get one of those, but you know, you got to understand from Eddie Murphy being the first comedic rock star, you know, all the way to you know you have Eddie Martin, Kevin Hart, and then Louis C.K. being a few comedians that had like their theater. Their special was debuted in theaters. I mean, even that was rare, you know. But now we've evolved to the point when people can complain about you can't say this, you can't say that, comedy isn't this, comedy isn't that. But especially since the pandemic, there's been a boom, a big spike where you're getting, you know, you got Rogan's whole crew, they're all doing large theaters everywhere they're going. You have Joe Coy, you have Russell Peters, they were the only ones doing it for a while. But yeah, you're getting comics that were more club comedians are doing theaters. And the few comedians that could do theaters, very few, very limited, but are doing arenas, you know. And Kevin Hart was you know, he's technically the one pushing the threshold because he's the only one getting money like those musicians were back in the day. He's the only one. Like, you know, Jerry Seinfeld gets money, but he gets most of his money off of the show. Syndicated, you know what I mean? Every time that show, and you understand, Seinfeld's been on every network almost at this point. Like you'll see the commercials with Hulu, and then somebody else will buy it. It's like it's like they like buying that. So, but to watch Dave Chappelle do what he's doing, you know, as much as people love Chappelle, every year he's breaking his own record because that wasn't even allowed back then. So, as far as you know, I mean, though I'm not directly benefiting from it as much, but I will. It is getting better and better. Like that's the answer is, despite people's feelings, if you talk to another comedian, they'll be all in their feelings about it. But truth is, like, with Shannon Sharp and Cat Williams, I mean, that put comedy high. It made it at the top of the year to talk of, we are trending more than rappers. Never before seen in history. Never, 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 never was comedians trending more than rappers. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it sucks that it's negativity, but it's definitely doing numbers for everybody. Everybody. Podcast. Keep beefing, everybody. Go ahead. It's it's making everybody richer. So whatever.
Dope. Nah, this has been dope. So what's up, Canyon? Do you have any place where people can go to check out your social media, listen to your mixes, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so El Cañonazo is my DJ name, and Subsuelo is the name of our party. And I mean, we're real regular. We throw a lot of parties. We've got this Friday, I'm in Venice at Ansonia Records, and next Wednesday, we're doing a live show at K-Rock. And next Friday, I'm downtown at La Cita. And then I'm in Malibu with Ozo Motley. We're playing Coachella. So I'll be out in the desert for those 2 weekends. And then once summer comes, it's even busier. So yeah, we're what's the Tupac song? We ain't hard to find.
Hey.
That's right. And once again, with you, Jeremy, you want to shout out your dates coming up?
Hey, look, as of right now, I got plenty of dates. Every day you need, I have it. But the only date that matters is St. Louis, people. Please get your tickets for St. Louis Helium, March 27th, 8 o'clock. I'll be headlining the St. Louis Helium Comedy Club. That's downtown St. Louis. Also, what I'm doing, I'm doing the news, the Fox 2 News St. Louis. So check me out there. After you check me out there, come to the show, fill up the show. If you don't come to the show, I won't do any more shows. So you don't have to worry about my other dates. I'm going to quit if you don't come. There it is.
No. Well, nah, man. With that being said, this has been another episode of Splendid